Hi, I'm DJ Ware. On this episode of the Cyber Gizmo, I'm going to be looking at the newly released Linux Mint codename Victoria. This is 21.2, and we're going to take a look at it, kind of an overview, and we'll do my usual analysis of it. So it was released on July the 16th, so it hasn't been out all that long. And it will be supported through July of 2027, since this is based on Ubuntu's long-term release or long-term support, and the Linux kernel, which is 5.15. So the desktop has a number of offerings. You can download a version that contains Cinnamon, and that will be version 5.8. You can also download one that's for Mate, that's 1.26. I don't believe that one changed from the previous release of 21 or 21.1. And also XFCE 4.18, and of course that is just slightly newer. A couple of patch levels up. What do you need to run it? Linux Mint requires, according to their site, at minimum 2 gig of memory, although probably you're looking closer at 4 gig. They require 20 gig of disk space, and they recommend 100 gigabyte. Also, the minimum requirements for your screen resolution is 1024 by 768. It is possible to upgrade in place from 21 or 21.1 to 21.2, and there are instructions on their website on how to do that. So I'm not going to cover those today. What are some of the changes? Well, the first thing you'll find is Linux Mint uses for their login page, they use the Slick Greeter. And the Slick Greeter has some changes in it to support multiple keyboard layouts now. So you can choose those from the login screen and select the one that best fits. The other thing is they allow you to reveal your password if you want, and then you can see what it was you entered. There's also a on-screen keyboard you can use as well. So if you have a machine that supports touch operations, you can use the on-screen keyboard in order to enter your password. Also, the Slick Reader also supports Wayland sessions as well. One of the other big changes is to the Studio Code, or their store, the software manager. It now includes applications that are based on Flatpak, as well as applications that you will find in the normal APT repositories from both Ubuntu and Debian. A scoring system that's in here to evaluate what applications appear first on the home screen. There's also changes to the pix command. The pix command, and we'll go through some of this. So it originally was based on gthumb 3.2.8, it had a limited set of functionality. They rebased the pix on gthumb 3.12.2. And so now they have additional features they can offer, such as support for AVIF, HEIF files, and JXL formats. Also, there's improved support for GIF, RAW, and TIFF, as well as you can now switch to larger thumbnails, and that will help you figure out what is actually in those image files. On Cinnamon 5.8, there introduces a new concept called styles. But you do have 3 choices. One is mixed. So you have a combination of light and dark. You have dark only or light only as well. There's also some additional quick theming that you can do by choosing what color that you want your icons and your different borders and so forth to be. So, and that's redesigned as well to include an accent color. So you now have 2 color icons, which is kind of nice. Also, the notification has been enhanced too, to include a brighter border around it to hopefully differentiate it from other messages that are popping up on your screen. As far as the artwork improvements, there's a new background, and so you can now choose from many more contributors to your artwork. And as we all know, whatever you have on your background makes your system go faster, just like having LEDs in a Windows case makes your games run quicker. So yeah, this is definitely something that you need to have. So yeah, they do look nice though. They have chosen some really nice ones in here, and I was quite impressed with some of them that were in here. So yeah, you might find something that you like as well. Let's stop for a minute and then we'll do an install, and then we'll come back and talk about this some more. The first thing you'll want to do when you're getting ready to install, of course, is to go and download the ISO. And this is the home page. It's linuxmint.com. And on the home page, you'll find a download button and installation instructions. So if you're new to Linux, you're not real sure what to do, you can read through the installation instructions and figure out, what kinds of changes you're going to want to make in order to make the Linux Mint your own. So you go to the download page when you're ready, and they'll find a bunch of additions here. This one is Cinnamon. That's your desktop environment. If you're coming from Windows, Linux Mint Cinnamon Edition will be the closest to a Windows, I think, 7 look and feel. Yeah, of course, it doesn't mimic the Windows 10 or Windows 11 way of doing things. So the Mate Edition is an older version of GNOME. A lot of people like this for its simplicity and its lightweightness. Also, you have XFCE, which is even lighter weight. So we'll go ahead and do the flagship, which I've always considered to be their Cinnamon edition, and I think they do as well. So all you have to do is download it, and you can then you can pick up your SHA. This one uses SHA 256 and so you'll need to pick that up. If you're using GPG, you can use that as well, and to be able to verify the signature on this particular distro. The next thing you want to do is to find a mirror site that's closest to you. So you can list them by the country, and you can find one that will work better for you to help you download this stuff quicker. So you can click on this if you need information about how to verify your integrity. There it is. So I don't know if I have 256. We'll just take a look. I've got mine. Now, what I noticed that some people were saying, well, I do it this way, and that's fine. You can do it your way. All I need is, because this right down here is the checksum for this, for the SHA 256. So if you get the first part right and the last part right, then you're pretty much assured that the numbers in between are also right. So that's just the way I do things. But you may want to do it differently, and that's fine. Everybody has their own favorite way of doing things. All right, so it should be 11 and 2A. 11, 2A. So I verified everything's good. So the next thing I want to do is move this over to my NAS server, and I will do that, and I'll be right back. So I'm starting to set this up. So these two pieces here, I just gave it a name. Then on the OS, I selected that, it's on my NAS storage, and I picked up the ISO image as the CD-ROM to boot from. And then on the system, I'm changing this over to run Spice, which I prefer. And then we'll pick up our drives here. I'm going to leave that at 32. However, if you're going to put a lot of flat packs out here, you might just want to bump that up. I think I'm going to. So I'm going to give it 4 cores. I'm going to leave that at AES, at the version 2 AES. And let's go to the next thing. Yeah. This is probably overkill, but that's all right. I'd rather have too much memory than not enough. Can always change it later. This is a virtual machine, so it's not a big deal. All right, so Go ahead and let it build out. It's coming right there at 102. I think it's done. Yep. So now we should be able to start it. And I should get my Spice file, and I can click on it and go. I'll go ahead and give it full screen. That way you don't get confused with my menus and its menus, because its menus will be down at the bottom as well. This gives you a live view of Linux Mint. So if you want to test drive it, play around with it, just realize that this is keeping everything in memory, so that if you come back into another live mode later, you'll find that it didn't save any of your work. All right, so we need to give our language. And we'll need to choose our keyboard layout, which is English US for me. Do I want the multimedia codecs? I guess so. I don't know if I have to. I guess I have to install them. I think this is going to put Flash out here. So, normally I don't do this. Maybe we'll just not do that today. Maybe I'll just talk myself out of it. So here you can just erase and install Linux Mint. If you want some advanced features, you can use LVM, and they still allow you to use ZFS. And that's because this is based on 2204, which still had that option in there. If you select LVM, it will allow you to encrypt the disk. So if you're installing this on a laptop, you may want to do that. So we're ready to write the changes to disk. You can also encrypt your home folder if you wish. And then it begins the installation. I'll be back and when this is done. Sorry, I came back again because I saw this. This is always a good way to get kind of if you're not familiar with a particular distribution and you kind of want to get the short version of what it has to offer. This is always a nice way, maybe, to be able to get enough information to give you an idea of what to expect. So we've kind of had a chance to look at the install, kind of look at some of the features. I'm going to look at the benchmarks next, but overall, Linux Mint it's always considered kind of a new to Linux kind of distribution, but as I have said before, I don't ever consider any Linux distribution to be one that's particularly geared just for new users. So I have a problem with this. It sounds like, once you've learned the basics of Linux, you need to go and find something else. And that's just not true. In fact, I know several YouTubers that have been creating videos on Linux for some time, probably 10, 15 years. That started out with Mint and are continuing to use Linux Mint. So this classification as to what distro to use, I still contend it depends on what your needs are, what best fits the type of distro that you will need. I don't think we need to classify things as being, suitable only for new users. It is one of the easier Linuxes to understand, one of the easier distros to get up and running, configure it, get it the way you want it. So that, in that regard, okay, yeah, it gets out of your way, it allows you to do the things that you want to do to get it to look the way you want it to look. So I think it's a very competent patch release. I look at this as just kind of a bump in capabilities to offer some additional features that weren't there before in the previous versions of the release. I think that will start on probably the next release of Linux Mint sometime next year. That I'd like to thank my Patreons and channel members. I appreciate your support. I also appreciate if you got this far in the video, you watching it to this point. Hope to see you all again in the future, and bye for now.